They called it the shift. No one remembered who invented it first. It wasn't some overnight miracle. It crept in quietly, first as experimental technology for burn victims and accident survivors, then as a luxury for the wealthy, then as a right for everyone. By the time Lyra was born, it was normal. Everyone could change their appearance at will. Skin, hair, height, bone structure, everything was fluid, everything was choice. The world adapted. Mirrors became obsolete. Names mattered less. Identity was no longer something you carried on your face, it was something you carried inside. Lyra, 17, had never used it. Everyone around her had. Her classmates wore new faces every week, some changed for fun, some to hide, some to impress. It was like changing clothes, but Lyra had never pressed the button, never downloaded the update. She lived in the world of shifting faces with the only face she was born with. People called her old skin. She didn't mind, not at first. She liked being real. She liked looking in the mirror and seeing the same eyes every day. But something changed the day she met Cade. He wasn't like the others. He wore the same face too, or at least, that's what she thought. He sat alone, scribbling drawings in a battered notebook while the others sparkled in their endless, flawless bodies. They started talking, quietly, cautiously. Cade showed her his drawings, faces he'd made up, lives he'd imagined, people who had never existed except in his mind. One day, he told her the truth. He wasn't old skin, not really. He could shift, he just stopped. I forgot who I was, he said, voice barely above a whisper. One day I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize anything. I didn't even know my own name. So I stopped. I picked one face, one version, and I stayed. Lyra shivered. She understood. That night, for the first time, she stood before the console, the smooth silver panel in her room, waiting for her first shift, just a touch, and she could become anything, anyone. She stared at her reflection, the same face she'd always known, and for the first time, she hesitated. What made her, her? The world outside was a blur of shimmering perfection. Faces changed to match moods, trends, seasons. People became taller, shorter, older, younger, fluid beyond anything her grandparents could have imagined. Relationships were temporary, friendships lasted hours, nothing stayed. The advertisements whispered, why be one thing when you can be everything? But the more Lyra thought, the more the weight of choice crushed her. And then, the dreams began. She saw herself, not just oneself, but hundreds, faces she had never worn, lives she had never lived, all layered over one another like transparent masks. She woke breathless, the images burned behind her eyes. The technology wasn't just surface. The more people shifted, the more fragmented they became. Some forgot their original faces entirely. Some forgot their voices, their names, their pasts. Cade had warned her, you think it's just your skin, but it's not. Every time you change, you leave something behind. The world didn't care. The more the technology advanced, the deeper it reached. Now people could shift not only faces but memories, emotions, entire personalities. The self became a canvas, endlessly rewritten. But Lyra clung to her face like a drowning woman to a piece of driftwood. She and Cade weren't the only ones. In hidden places, in abandoned buildings and underground rooms, others gathered, those who had stopped, who had chosen oneself. They were called anchors. Some of them remembered the old days. Some of them had forgotten so much they barely spoke, but they held on to what remained. Then the cracks appeared. The news spoke of it quietly at first, people who had shifted too many times, who couldn't hold any shape, bodies that flickered between forms, unable to settle, minds that shattered, hospitals filled. The technology was flawless, the designers insisted, but something deeper, something in the human heart, was breaking. And the anchors knew. Lyra watched the city from the rooftops, glowing, perfect, ever-changing. She felt the pull, the temptation to press the button, to let herself dissolve into the glittering sea of faces, to be anything but this single, fragile self. But she stayed. The day the collapse began, she was there. Faces shifted uncontrollably. Whole crowds convulsed as people lost shape, lost memory, lost meaning. The illusion unraveled. The technology hadn't broken. The human soul had. Lyra and the anchors gathered the lost ones, the fragments, the shivering people who no longer remembered who they were. And slowly, painfully, they taught them again how to be one thing, how to be whole. It wasn't easy, it wasn't fast, But in time, the city quieted, the screens went dark, the endless mirrors shattered, and people, for the first time in generations, learned to look at one face, and say, "This is me." Lyra stood before her reflection, the same eyes, the same scars, the same self. And for the first time, she smiled,